How you move through the work camera is essential for animating. That's why knowing the mouse and keyboard shortcuts is the main thing to keep in mind when creating animations. So, the first thing we'll learn is how to navigate the work camera. That's the area highlighted in yellow. As you can see below, Mine-imator shows us the different options we have to move around with the mouse. Let's left-click inside the map, and without letting go, drag the mouse to rotate around a point. Another option shown is doing the same but with a right-click. This lets us look around from a fixed spot, as if we were standing there and observing the map. By holding Shift plus left-click, we can pan the camera like this. Then, with the mouse wheel, we can zoom in or out of a point. Now, we're going to learn how to walk inside the work camera, which is an option that appears while holding down the right-click. As you can see, new movement options appear like up, down, left, and right, just like in a video game. If we press E, we can move up. And by pressing Q, we'll move down. By using the spacebar, we can perform all these movements faster. To reset the view to its starting position, we can press right-click plus R. And with Shift, we do the opposite, move slower. I recommend practicing these commands constantly, as we'll be using them all the time while animating. Now let's make it a bit more fun. We're going to go to the crafting table and create a character. In the character section, we'll select a human and click Create. Once created, it will be attached to the mouse, and the character will be placed wherever we click on the map. Now we can practice moving around this character using the movement commands we just learned. Let's try getting close and using Shift a lot, since it gives us the precision we're going to need. Now we will go to the box where our character Steve is located, and we are going to select him. Once selected, we will see that the Transform tab appears. The Transform tab is where we can see all the data of our character. As you can see, we have these lines here called gizmos, which allow us to move the character in the world. They appear if we have these symbols here activated. His position, which just like in Minecraft, is represented by the X, Y, and Z axes. For example, if I move him upwards, I am modifying his Y-axis, represented by the color green. The same with the Z-axis, which is the color blue. And also the X-axis, which is the red one. As you can see, we can also move the axes from the Transform tab. If we use the curved lines, we can rotate the character in those same X, Y, and Z axes, depending on his rotation. I press the Ctrl plus Z keys to go back. Another way to return the character to his default position is to click on Reset All Values. This will make him go to the 0 coordinates. With the G key, I can activate and deactivate the position gizmos. With the rotation ones, and with B, the bend ones, which we will see later. Then we have the rotation part, which we can modify both in the Transform tab and with the shortcut keys here by pressing R or clicking. In the Scale section, we can modify the scale of the character in all its axes. Reset all values to return to the default scale. By combining the values with this chain icon here, we can modify all his axes at the same time, and do things like a huge Steve, or a tiny Steve. Just like the others, we can use his gizmo if we don't have the axes combined. We are going to go again to the face here, the timeline list. This is where we will organize all our objects and models created. We are going to select the Steve model and expand it. We are going to expand the body part one more time. And as we can see, these are all the parts of the model that make up Steve. Each of these parts has the characteristics that we saw in the Transform tab. As you can see, Steve's body part includes within itself the head and the arms. so any change affects the others. If I move the body, whatever is inside will also move. It happens the same way with any change I make. We are going to see a new feature of Transform, which is being able to bend Steve's body. As you see, it only changes the position, it doesn't make the other body parts bend. I reset all values. We can also bend the arms, but with the movement limitation that an arm would have. Something we can do is that if we have two body parts selected, we can modify them at the same time like I'm doing with these arms. To do it, we must click on them while holding the Shift key. And for example here, by modifying their rotation, I get this movement quickly. I reset all values to go back to normal. Now we are going to see the timeline. Here is where the movement happens, and where we can indicate for a model or object to come to life. These numbers and lines that are here are the frames, and 24 of those frames represent 1 second of animation. Then there are the keyframes, which are these ones here that I created almost without knowing it. This is because every time we make a change in Transform, we automatically create a keyframe. We are going to create another keyframe on Steve. By double-clicking on the frames we want, I will do it on frame 15. And now by selecting that frame, we will change its position. For example, over here, as you can see, the frames in the middle are filled automatically, and our character moves. I am going to select the keyframe and delete it with del. The same happens with every body part of the character. To cancel the movement, I press Ctrl+Z. We are going to position ourselves on frame 15 again and bend Steve's body. As you see, the same thing happens as before, but this time I want it to go faster. How do I do it? If we click on the keyframe, we can move it over the timeline and make that movement last fewer frames, that is, less time. Let's compare 5 frames, 10 frames, and 52 frames. This one would last more than 1 second, since remember 24 frames is equal to 1 second. Now I want to make Steve do a wave. In the same frame 10, I am going to rotate the arm, mimicking how an arm would look if we leaned over. I always recommend doing the movement you want to create yourself. I have used that method since I started, and to this day it still works for me. We rotate the right arm this way. Another thing I recommend is constantly playing the animation, clicking on frame 0 and pressing the spacebar. This is to see the movement and correct or add things. Here there is a bug called Z-fighting. It's easily fixed, it's just selecting, in this case, both legs, and scaling them to 0.999 on all their axes. Now we will make Steve's right arm swing from one side to the other. For that, we go to the arm and double-click approximately 5 frames ahead, and we rotate. As you see, the changes I make will be applied to the keyframe I have selected. For the change to be created automatically in the frame I am at, I must deselect any keyframe I have. Now I want that arm swing to happen several times. For that, it's not necessary to do it over and over manually. Instead, we will copy the keyframes we want and paste them further ahead. We press Ctrl+C. We point with the mouse at the frame where we want to paste, and press Ctrl+V. And that's how we duplicate the keyframes we made. Now I am going to select and copy the keyframes of the arms that are at the beginning, and I'm going to paste them approximately here. I do the same with the body. Here, a very common beginner error happens. Remember that Mineimator automatically fills all the frames that are between these two keyframes, so if we make a change, it will change slowly. Since we want the body and the left arm to move further ahead and in a faster way, we must copy the keyframe from the beginning and place it further ahead in the timeline. With Shift, we select both frames where the movement begins. We copy and paste them around here. I do the same with the right arm. I can select the keyframes and move them to adjust the speed. Here I place myself between the two keyframes of the left arm to make a somewhat more natural movement. And done. Now we are going to delete the frames we made and leave the character as he was at the beginning. Or also, if you wish, you can create a new Steve and hide the previous one using hide. We are going to make a short animation of Steve jumping forward. To do this, we are going to create a keyframe. Around here, we are going to move our character forward. This way. We are going to copy this keyframe and paste it over here. Since Steve must crouch in the starting position to gain momentum, we are going to see another way to create a keyframe, which is with Ctrl+Q. This keyframe will have the same characteristics as the previous one. If we select all the body parts, we can do the same. Ctrl+Q. Now we are going to select the keyframes for the arms, and we are going to bend them at the same time. I select the keyframe for the body and I also bend it. And I'm also going to rotate it this way. We select the keyframes for the legs and we rotate them. And then we bend them like this. As you can see, now our Steve has a pose like he is about to gain momentum. Steve is in the air, so we will select the main keyframe and lower it on its Y-axis. It looks like this. Now we will make the pose for when he is in the air. Select all the body parts. Ctrl+Q. To do that, we select the body, and we bend it but towards the opposite side. Then we select both arms and do the same, and we also rotate them upwards. Now the legs. We rotate backwards, and we bend so they stretch out. Done. Now we are going to select all the keyframes. And pointing here, we will press Ctrl+Q. I select the legs. I rotate them forward and bend slightly. I place myself on the body keyframe and bend it. And I select both arms and rotate them this way. This pose is Steve falling towards the ground. Now we will place ourselves in the middle of these keyframes, and we are going to move Steve up. Now we will simply copy the initial frames, without including the keyframe at the very top, and we will paste them at the end. We don't include the one at the very top, since that one has Steve's starting position, and what would happen is that Steve would move backwards. Now I'm going to copy the keyframes of Steve crouching and paste them around here. I create a keyframe here and I lower Steve until he touches the ground. And in the keyframes at the end, I move Steve's position up. Here we can modify Steve's rotation a bit. And also in this keyframe, I move Steve forward a bit, so he doesn't move backwards when he stands up. By right-clicking on the numbers of the timeline, we can select a part of it. And if we click here, we can set it to loop.